We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, and we are starting the halachot of Kedushat Bet Knesset, the proper conduct in a Bet Midrash, in a Bet Knesset, in Siman Kuf Nun Aleph. And this really comes from a Gemara in Masechet Megillah, Daf Kafchet Amud Bet, that the person has to have proper conduct of Kedusha and respect and reverence and awe when entering the Mikdash Me'at. The Pasuk in Yecheskel says, "Va'ayit lahem leMikdash Me'at." The Baruch Hu says, even though that the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed, but I'm standing for my nation as a Mikdash, as a miniature sanctuary. It's like a miniature Beit HaMikdash, and therefore there are rules and regulations associated with what can and cannot be done, what can and cannot be said, what can and cannot be read in Bet Knesset. And here are the sets of rules. Says the Maran of Shulchan Aruch, Bate Knesset, Bate Midrashot, Eno agi bahem kalud rosh. In Bet Knesset and Bet Midrash, you cannot be lightheaded. Right? This is again the Gemara from Masechet Megillah Daf Kafchet Amud Bet. Kegon schok vehitul. You cannot laugh around and joke around in Bet Knesset. Sicha betela. You cannot speak idle talk in Bet Knesset. Ve'en ochlin ve'shotin b'hem. You cannot eat or drink in a Bet Knesset. It's considered disrespectful. Ve'lo mitkashtin b'hem. Ve'lo metailin b'hem. You don't beautify yourself. You don't hang around, just walking for no purpose in a Bet Knesset. Ve'lo nichnasim b'hem b'chama mipnei hachama v'geshamim mipnei geshamim. You don't shelter yourself from rain or from sun, taking shelter in a Bet Knesset, because that's all disrespectful. But there are exceptions to the rule of Talmidei Chachamim. The sages and their students are mutarim de'echol v'lishtot bahem midochak. They are allowed to eat and drink in a Bet Knesset and Bet Midrash midochak. Midochak means, it's not something we are very excited about. Is considered extenuating circumstance, because what's going to be the alternative? They have to leave, go home, all the way walk home, spend the minutes out and the minutes eating, the minutes coming back, and who knows, when you're out, you're going to get stuck. It diminishes the ability to learn and to be productive in learning Torah, and hence there is this, if there is no other choice, there's no side room, there's no kitchen, there's no dining room, so to speak, adjacent to the shul, and all you got is the room of the Mikdash Me'at, of the Bet Knesset or the Bet Midrash. Hence, in those cases, it's mutar for them to eat and drink midochak. Now, Yesh Omrim, says the Rama, the Bet HaMidrash afilu shlo midochak shari. The in Bet Midrash is more lenient. You could even eat and drink shelo midochak. Even, for Talmid Chacham, he needs to learn. Even if you have another option to go have your coffee in the kitchen and then enter back to the Bet Midrash, you don't have to necessarily do that. You could bring your coffee, sit there as you learn, and have it even shelo midochak. And says the Maran of Shulchan Aruch, continuing, Ve'ein mechashvim b'hem cheshbonot. You do not do calculations in them, sitting and doing your accounting. And I ken hem shel mitzvot. You could do accounting of mitzvah. The tzedakah of the shul, the aniim, and so on and so forth. The kupah shel tzedakah. The examples are the kupah shel tzedakah, the tzedakah fund of the shul. Or pidyon shvuim, you have to get together and do a fundraiser for pidyon shvuim, saving the captives, and so on. Those are mutar. Now, before we go to the second half of this seif, I'm going to do a little bit of studying together. This is a longer seif that talks about eulogizing a person, going further, or if you're entering the shul to call somebody, you're not planning to stay learning or davening, is that mutar, or making it a kapandaria, making it a shortcut when you let's say are, you could go from one block to another block, and you could just run through the shul and save yourself 3 minutes of extra walk. Can you do that? Well, when you're there or when you're not there, you're just entering the shul in order to make a shortcut. We're going to study all those things that also are considered questionable activities and perhaps prohibited as we develop this sif. But first, the Mishnah writes, Kalut Rosh, Kihem Nikraim Mikdash Ma'ad, because the shul, the Bet Knesset or Bet Midrash, is called a miniature sanctuary, a miniature Bet Mikdash, like the pasuk says in Yechazkel, in Perek Yud Aleph, Va'ehi lahem the Mikdash Ma'at, Ube Mikdash Ketiv, and of course we all know the pasuk in Vayikra about the Mikdash. This is with Mikdash Yitirau, that you have to have reverence and fear of the Bet HaMikdash, shehem mora'o shel hashochen ba'alav, that the reverence of the one residing in the Mikdash, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Shekhinah, should be upon a person when entering in the Mikdash. And the Samak writes, interestingly, Sefer Mitzvot Ktan writes in Mitzvah Yud Aleph, sheba'avon kalut rosh bebet HaKnesset nepachin lebet ovdei gidulim, chas v'shalom, the avon of not treating a Bet Knesset, a Bet Midrash properly, the Batei Knesset turned into Bet Avodah Zarah as a sign from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we did not serve Him properly in that domain, and therefore it's an important thing to note and to be careful with. Now, part of the Isur of Kalud Rosh, writes Kaf HaChaim, is that you don't sit spreading your legs open in a way that's not respectful in the Bet Knesset, right? And Rav Mordechai Eliyahu writes the same thing. The way a person sits shows how much kavod and reverence he has. If you're going in front of a very important, prominent individual, there's a way you sit in front of them. There's a way you conduct yourself in front of them. You don't sit like, rolling your legs open and so on. Of course, we're going to speak about crossing the legs in the Bet Knesset and Bet Midrash, which is also asur. Again, you can't cross your legs either in that way. So, how about kissing your children, young children, in the Bet Knesset? This is something very prevalent. We'll have this, we had it actually in Siman Tzadichet in the beginnings, in Sif Aleph, that the Shulchan Aruch says is asur lenashek banav kitanim, but Bet Knesset you cannot kiss your little children or grandchildren in Bet Knesset, and there's machloket poskim whether or not that is extended to adults as well. How about the communities that have a minhag as their greeting pattern is to kiss each other, which the Shelot Tshuvos Shemesh Magen, Ramasas, says that he perhaps is mutar. He mentions that was the Moroccan custom. Many of the Eastern countries also have the habit of greeting each other with that, so that becomes a whole question. But kissing a little kid is pure ahava, and showing ahava to anyone else but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is disrespectful in the Bet Knesset. So therefore, Shulchan Aruch says it's asur to kiss your little children or grandchildren in the area of Bet Knesset, as we again learned earlier in the Shulchan Aruch. Now, how about Ezrat Nashim? Is that considered also Mikdash Me'at or not? As we mentioned this before more than once, this has been debated heavily within the poskim. The Ben Ish Chai writes, and so does the Kaf HaChaim as well, that even the Ezrat Nashim has Kedusha. It may not be the same level of the Kedusha of the Bet Knesset, but still is a Makom Kadosh, and therefore anything that's asur to do in the Bet Knesset is also asur to do it in Ezrat Nashim. And Chacham Obadia also seems from his language that he agrees with this as well. Now, sometimes you have questionable areas. For instance, when we captured the area of in Kotel HaMa'aravi, there was a whole question what exactly the Kotel should be. Should it be a museum? Should it be a sightseeing, open to goyim and travelers? What exactly should be done with it was very questionable. Baruch Hashem, the way it ended up is that, yes, a lot of visitors come, but it's really a makom of tefillah the entire day. It's a makom for Yidden to come daven, tens of minyanim every single day, and so on. So the whole Rachavat HaKotel, the entire area in front of Kotel HaMa'aravi, becomes very questionable. Is that a halacha of Beit HaKnesset and Beit Midrash, even though that is open, so to speak, it's not necessarily like built and structured like a regular Beit Knesset, but still that becomes very questionable. Ben Sir Abba Shaul is quoted by his students, by his Talmidim, to have said that the halacha of the entire Rachavat HaKotel, that area of Kotel HaMa'aravi, is considered like a shul, like a Beit Knesset. So you cannot do any kalut rosh, eating, drinking, all those things are following the same halacha of a Beit Knesset. Dvarim Betelim, all those things that are applicable in a Beit Knesset are applicable in that area as well. And another thing that's very common is shul's social hall, or shuls that are also used as a social hall. You have this many times because of the lack of space. Many shuls, of course, they're dedicated to their community and their smachot, and therefore they design one of the large areas. Sometimes the shul itself sometimes turns into a simcha hall. You have party and bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah and so on and so forth. So that becomes a question. But can you do such a thing? Now, this is of course a much more involved question based on the whole sugya that we're going to discuss of making a tenai, making a condition on a shul, whether that works in Chutz La'aretz, in Eretz Yisrael, or it doesn't. But nevertheless, if you have a social hall, we're going to discuss that shul thing that's turned into social hall some more. But if you have a social hall that sometimes you use it as a Beit Knesset as well, then it's not considered Kedushat Beit Knesset necessarily. But if it becomes a place that's set for tefillah and for limud Torah in a set way, in a kavua way, then it may actually take the halachot of Beit Knesset and Beit Midrash, and it becomes questionable. So therefore, you should ask a question really in every given case, that you have these social halls that they also are like a young professionals minyan, so to speak, or a different minyan on Shabbat. So they have a set minyan, but it's nevertheless the kavua place for social activities, whether or not the person could use them for those activities or not. It becomes a question that should be asked from a competent Rav. Again, Rav Moshe Feinstein, for instance, has a tshuva saying that if you make a tenai in the very beginning, when you build a shul, even you could do that. You could say, I want this to be be'ikar, a social hall. We got to also daven in it. That's why Hasidim, by the way, call the shuls shtibulach. Shtibulach means a little house. Shtub means a house. So why do they call it a house, not a shul? Because the Hasidim, they want to be machmir on this halacha, not to eat or drink or do kalut rosh in the Beit Knesset, and because it's very difficult to be careful in these halachot, so they say, we forgo the kedusha Beit Knesset. This is not the Beit Knesset. This is a house minyan, so to speak. It's my home. We eat in here, we drink in here, we have parties in here. It's a house. It's not a shul. We make a tenai from the beginning that this is not a shul, but we happen to end up having minyanim around the clock here as well, but it's not the function of a shul. So they are foregoing the Kedusha Bet Knesset for being careful in this area of halacha, not to be mizalzel, not to disgrace the Kedusha of Bet Knesset. So therefore, Moshe Feinstein says, if you do such a tonight, that works. And there are others who vehemently disagree with that and say, no, if you have a Bet Knesset, if it looks like a Bet Knesset, it feels like a Bet Knesset, then it is a Bet Knesset. The fact that you make it tonight, according to Maran of Shulchan Aruch, at least as we will see, it's not going to be mo'il, it's not going to be effective, the condition, and therefore it will be a problem. So that's something that we will develop a little bit more as we get into these halachot. For today, we will just leave it here, and with Hashem, we will be continuing this in the upcoming days, in the days to come. Be'ezrat Hashem. Have a wonderful day.